Going live now.
Go ahead and start it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dr. Lewis. We're starting.
Oh, shoot, the mute. It's not. Okay, something's not working. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. The music's not playing for some reason.
Okay, let's just do the talk then, and let's not do the PowerPoint.
Don't do the PowerPoint.
No, because if it's not working, then.
Yeah, because it was working earlier. I mean, because, the music and everything. Okay, so just talk. You're going to start all over or whatever, live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, 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 everyone. I am just so excited to be here for the George Fraser Wow event. I tell you what, I'm sure this is going to be awesome, and I'm just totally excited to be here. And today, what I'm going to be talking to you about is the CEO Blueprint. I'm also excited about that because the CEO Blueprint, this is something that can change your life. So one of the things you're probably asking, CEO Blueprint, who is this for? Well, the CEO Blueprint is for, I tell you what, if you're the person that's stuck in your career, you're feeling frustrated, and you don't know how to go from point A to point B. You used to be moving and everything was going great in your career, and then all of a sudden things stopped and you don't know why. Well, then the CEO Blueprint is for you. The CEO Blueprint is for you also if you've been passed over. And what by that I mean, if you've been passed over in a position that you've been waiting for. I was traveling, and I was on the plane, and I met this lady, and we got to talking, and how you do. She asked me what I did, and I told her, and she started telling me about where she worked and her career and things like that. And what she said to me, she said she had been working for this organization for about 15 years, and there was a position that came up, and she just knew that she was a shoo-in for it. I mean, she had been, like I said, been there for 15 years. She had punched all the boxes, checked all those, checked all the boxes, and she'd done the professional development training. She'd also trained other people. She was one of the go-to people, when they had questions, because she had all this experience. And guess what happened? They brought someone else in to that position from outside, and she was devastated. She was devastated to the point, she told me, she said she took 2 weeks off because she just needed to get her head back in the game and figure out what exactly she was going to do, if she was going to stay at this company or if she was going to leave and try to find something else somewhere else. And the reason for her being that devastated about the whole situation is because the person that they brought in, they asked her to train them. So why wouldn't she be devastated? Because it's one of those situations where, you feel as though I have the experience to train the person, but you don't feel as though I have the experience to put me in that position. I mean, how wrong is that? So we got to talking, and she's one of the people that signed up for our program, and I'm excited about that. But the CEO Blueprint is also for you if you're ambitious. And by ambitious, I mean, you have some skills, you have some knowledge, you have some abilities, but your ambition is not matching your skill sets. In other words, you need to increase the skill sets that you have. You need to get a little more experience. You need some more professional development, maybe some more mentoring in different areas. The CEO Blueprint is also for you if you one of those people that's been there, done that. You've tried everything. You've been to the training. You've been to the seminar, and none of this has worked. And so now you're dissatisfied, you're disappointed, and you're about ready to give up. But there's another option. The CEO Blueprint is also for you if you're in a dead-end job. I've run across many different types of women in my travels, and there's nothing worse than being in a dead-end job. You hate going to work. There's no satisfaction. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. As a matter of fact, you can't even see the tunnel. And you're trying to figure out, what do I need to do to get out of this situation? The CEO Blueprint is for you if you find yourself in any of the situations that I've described. Why? Why do I think this program is a good program for someone who's stuck, who's frustrated, who's in a dead-end job, who's been passed over? Because for one thing, I've done a lot of research, and I've come up with the science of being looked into the different aspects of it, and so I now have the science of being a CEO. I understand what it takes to be a CEO. I interviewed women in and around the that's been in this higher echelon position as CEOs, the obstacles that they face, how they got there, how they stay there, their struggles, and putting all of this together, bringing this to you so that you can understand what it takes to get into a CEO position. So the thing of it is, though, what we need to find out is, do you have what it takes to be a CEO? Everybody thinks that they are CEO, but wanting to be a CEO and calling yourself a CEO is two different things. Many people call themselves CEOs. They slap it on a card. Just because you have CEO on a card, that does not make you a CEO. And like I said, I have studied the science of what it takes to be a great CEO. So what I'd like to do is invite you to take our CEO quiz. I hope that when you started out looking at this whole program of different presentations, that you also had a piece of paper and a pen, because you wanted to take notes, because you're going to need to take notes for this one. We're going to do a CEO quiz, and what I'd like to do is I have about 7 statements that I'm going to make, and you're going to evaluate yourself with these 7 statements. And you're going to use the numbers between 0 and 5. 0, of course, being the least, 5 being the highest. 5 is the highest that you can give yourself as you're evaluating. And as we go through the different statements, I'll explain them to you. For example, the first one, I have a written 3-year plan. Now, when I say I have a written 3-year plan, what I mean is you have a 3-year plan that every couple months or so, you pull that 3-year plan out, you take a look at it, you see where you are, you're implementing the different things in there. You started at the top, and okay, I finished this one, check it off, and now I'm going to the next thing on my 3-year plan so that I can start working on that. If you have a 3-year plan and you've been implementing it, you've been pulling it out, making sure that you're hitting the things that's on there, then give yourself a 5. If you do not have a 3-year plan at all, then of course you need to give yourself a 0. Now, I want you to understand something about this quiz. There is no right or wrong answer, no pass or fail. What we want to see is where you're weak and where you're strong, because this will help you to strengthen your skills and your abilities. So another thing is you need to be honest with yourself about this, because if you can't be honest on a simple quiz like this, then you're definitely not CEO material. The next statement, I regularly seek professional development training. So if you've gone to your company's professional development training, say within the last 3 months, you've gone through your company, your particular organization's professional development training, then give yourself a 1. If you've gone through additional training besides going through the company's training within the last 3 months, then I'd like you to give yourself a 2. Now, if you have gone to training that was outside of your company, you knew that it was something that would advance your career, so you didn't wait for your company to pay for it, you took the initiative and you paid for it yourself, I want you to give yourself a 5, because what we're really looking for is if you're willing to invest in yourself. You know, if you bought the books, if you've taken training that you paid for yourself, because you're not one of those people that say, well, if my organization doesn't pay for it, I'm not going to go, then give yourself a 5. If you're working if you gone to a conference and you were working at that conference, or maybe you were speaking at that conference, I just want you to know that doesn't count. You can't count that as being a part of your score. That's just, you just happen to be there because you were, you know, you needed to be there, or you had to speak or something like that. Then no, let's not cheat on it and add points for that, because you know that that wouldn't be right. The next one, I take on assignments without being asked. Now, if you're the type of person that if you see something and you know that it needs to be handled, maybe a project that you've created because you saw that there was a need for it, and you just stepped up and volunteered to do it. In grade school, this is what we call initiative, and you can give yourself a 5. If you are the type of person that every time they come out and they say, we need a volunteer, or is there someone that would take charge of this project, so, and the deadline is you have till the end of the week to get it done, and you're one of those people that start moving to the back, or you start hiding, or you know, you make yourself as small as you can so they won't notice you and call on you and ask you to take charge of it, then give yourself a 0. But now, if you have worked on a project, maybe not one that you were assigned to without being asked, but you did work on the project to the end, then we'll give you a 2 on that one. But what we're looking for is the person that will find the project, the person that will step up to the plate and say, yes, I'll do it. I don't mind stepping up and handling that for you. The next one, I regularly take on leadership. How many times have you heard someone say, I want to be promoted, but I don't want to have anyone reporting to me. I don't want to be responsible for people reporting to me. If you've ever made that statement, if you've ever had that thought, then give yourself a 0. If you're asked to take on a leadership role within your organization because they know that you will get it done, you assign the people that need to be assigned to that the different tasks that need to be handled, and you'll make sure that it gets in on time. They're always coming to you, hey, would you head this up? Because they know that you're one of those people that they can count on, then give yourself a 5. But if you are never asked to take on leadership roles, or if you never want to take on leadership roles, or if you're the type of person that runs from taking on leadership roles, as I said, that's a 0. But now if maybe you started out working on a project and someone else was in the lead role, and for whatever reason they couldn't get it done, so they dropped out, and you decided, okay, I'll see if I can make this work. I'll go ahead and step into their shoes. Give yourself a 3 on that one, because that's someone who wouldn't mind taking on a leadership role, even though it wasn't something you volunteered for. You still stepped up and you still did it. Give yourself a 3 on that one. The next one, I regularly interview. Now this one here always amazes me. I know in most organizations, in order to get feedback, you either have to wait 6 months or you have to wait a whole year. Or some places you get a 6-month review or feedback, and then you get your yearly feedback. Well, if you wait until that 6-month time frame before you get feedback on your progress or your performance, then you need to give yourself a 0. Because you should be getting feedback, you should be finding out how you're doing, say every 2 months, or every time you work on a major project or take on a task and you complete it, you need to get feedback on there. And if you're the type of person that's always going in because you want to know how you're doing, because you don't want any surprises at that 6-month period or at the end of the year, you don't want any surprises. You want to know right now what you need to do to be working basically at the next level to get you promoted. If you're the type of person that go in and regularly get feedback so that you'll know what's coming down the pike, then give yourself a 5. If you update your resume every 3 years, give yourself a 5. But if you haven't looked at your resume within the last 3 years, then you need to give yourself a 0. If you're the type of person that don't go in and get that feedback, like I said, you wait for that 6-month mark, and then you get upset when you hear what they're telling you that you need to, do. You're not taking initiative, or your work performance is not what it should be, or not at the level it should be. You would have known that beforehand, and you could have fixed it if you had been going in on a regular basis to get that feedback. I manage my time effectively. Well, let's see. There's 8 hours that you have to work every day. If you go to work and you're supposed to work for 8 hours, and 6 of those hours you're sitting on the internet pulling up stuff from QVC or HSN, or shopping online, or what have you, doing everything but what you're supposed to be doing as it relates to your job, then you need to give yourself a 0. If you're the type of person that when you come into work, you get started, you have everything laid out, you're organized because you know what your daily schedule is. So when you come in, you start on the priority work first, and you work until it's time for you to go home, then give yourself a 5. But if you can, and keep something in mind, if you can do in 2 hours without distractions the same amount of work that it takes you all day to do, then you're not managing your time effectively. And that's something that you need to think about as a CEO. You need to be able to manage your time. So remember, as I stated in the beginning, there are no right or wrong answers. There's no pass or fail. What you want to do is be honest with yourself on this assessment. The next one, I give 105% effort every day. And what this means is, if you're the type of person that go above and beyond every phone call, every task, and you're always making sure that you go above what you need to do, above what you need to do, then give yourself a 5. If you're the type of person that know that you do things halfway, you turn in products that have typos on it, they're grammatically incorrect, then you know that you need to give yourself a 0. I knew a young lady, she was going out for a promotion. She had to put in her promotion packet for, guess what, a GS-15. Those of you that work in the federal government, you know GS-15, that's a pretty high grade to get up to. So she was trying to get a GS-15 promotion. She put in a packet, turned in her packet, and it had grammatical errors, it had typos in it. They took one look at that packet and they just put it aside. They didn't even consider her. They didn't even send it back and say, hey, why don't you make these corrections and turn it in? And you know why they did that? If you're going for that high level of position and you can't take the time to make sure that when you turn that packet in, it is stellar, then you don't deserve to be at that level. Because people at that level give 105%, which means that they make sure that anything, any work, any tasking that they perform is always performed above and beyond, and it's never turned in halfway or half done. So what does this score mean? Now that we've gone through these 7 statements, you've scored yourself, what does this score mean? And again, remember I told you there's no pass or fail for this. So if you are between 0 and 17, remember the highest you can get on this is 35. Because we had 7 questions, the highest number that you could score yourself on each question was 5. So if you are between 0 and 17, once you add your score up, then I'm sorry, but you have to take some drastic action to get where you want to be, to get into that CEO realm. If you're between 18 and 27, you're okay. You need some fine-tuning, maybe some increase some of your skills, a little more professional development, but you're doing okay. If you're between 28 and 35, pat yourself on the back. You're looking real good. You're pretty much on track. You probably just need some mentoring to make sure that you stay focused and stay on track so that you can get where you want to go. Now, for those of you that were between 0 and 17 or 18 and 27, as I said, there's no pass or fail. So I want you to type in the feed for me, I can do better, because we know that you can do better. So just type that in the feed. I can, hashtag, I want you to hashtag, I can do better. Type that in the feed. Hashtag, I can do better. Because you can, and it is possible for you to get in that 28 to 35 range where you're patting yourself on the back and saying, hey, I knew I could do it. So if you want to find out a little more about taking an assessment, being assessed, or maybe have a 30-minute strategy session with me, and we can kind of go over your skills, your abilities, and how you're doing as far as getting up to that CEO level. Then why don't you text CEO to 301-825-5005. Text CEO to 301-825-5005. I'll give it to you one more time. Text CEO to 301-825-5005. And I tell you what, the first 10 people, no, let's make it 20. The first 20 people that text CEO to 301-825-5005, then I'll give them a free 30-minute strategy session with me, and we'll go over how you're looking, what's keeping you back, what's holding you back, why you might be stuck, why you might be being passed over, and we'll go over some of those things. So here's the fact about CEOs. You know, women represent just 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs and less than 15% of corporate executives at top companies worldwide. And you know what? We want to change those numbers at the CEO, at the Women's CEO Institute. We're going to change those numbers. Another fact is having women in leadership roles increases a company's profits and also performance. So you would think they would want to have more women in those CEO roles. Again, the Women's CEO Institute, that's what we're here for. We want to change those numbers. We want to increase those numbers. CEOs have 5 undeniable traits. And you know what? The first trait is know your purpose. CEOs, they know their purpose. When you do your job, what impact do you feel that you're making in this world? Ask yourself that question. When you do your job, what impact do you feel that you're making when you do your job? You know, Steve Jobs, he said he wanted to make a ding in the world. And you know what? He did. He made his ding in the world. So when you do your job, you're operating in your purpose. And that's what CEOs do. They operate in their purpose. Another undeniable trait about CEOs is that they have a clear vision. All CEOs have a clear vision. You know, they look at where where do they see themselves in 5 years? Where do they want their companies to be in 5 years? And as a CEO, that's the way you have to think. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see your company in 5 years? CEOs have a vision. Employees see through the eyes of the CEOs. Those eyes are the eyes that those employees are looking through. So, you know, so getting the right people will give you a clear vision also. Whenever you, as a CEO, you know, when you're putting things together, getting those right people in the right position, that's also seeing that vision. That's having that clear vision as to how you want things to roll out, how you want things to come about. Another trait that CEOs have, they're master networkers. CEOs are master networks. They network with people, even though they might be uncomfortable. You know, you might have, you know, not all CEOs are extroverts. Some of them are introverts. But guess what? Because they're CEOs, they learn how to come out of their comfort zone and network with groups of people. They learn how to create relationships instead of just collect business cards. They understand that that's a necessity to be able to network effectively. Also, another trait for CEOs is that they're effective communicators. In other words, they speak with authority, and they do not second guess themselves. When they make a decision, good, bad, or indifferent, they live with it. CEOs speak with authority, and they do not second guess their decisions. They also achieve goals through others. You know, many of us can achieve goals, but the test is how well you achieve goals through others. I mean, how well you allocate assignments and get things done. CEOs look at how to accomplish things as a team. They coach, they inspire, they motivate. And that's how they get things done through other people. You know, when you're running a corporation, when you have your own business, you're the CEO of your own business, or you're running somebody else's business, you know that you can't do it all by yourself. You have to put the right people in the right places, bring in the right talent, the right skills to get the job done. And that's what CEOs know how to do. They know how to achieve goals through others. So now that you've taken the CEO quiz, you understand how where you are as far as your range and the scoring of that. You know what the traits are of a CEO. So the question is, are you willing? I mean, now that you've taken the quiz and you see what some of the traits are, you might be changing your mind. Maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not sure that I want to be a CEO, because it is a lot of responsibilities. It is not something that you can just step in and say, hey, I'm going to do this, I can do this, and not have any type of experience, not have any type of coaching or mentoring or professional development. It's not something that you can do. So this is your moment of truth. You know what you've been doing and what you do. And, you know, those of you that are willing to change the world, you do what it takes. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you change the world if you want to. Put a ding in the world if that's what you want. We are here to help you. Do you want to be a CEO? If you believe that you have what it takes to be a CEO, what I'd like you to do right now is to type in the feed, hashtag I am a CEO. Type that in the feed, hashtag I am a CEO. Hashtag I am a CEO. Do you deserve it? Do you deserve to be a CEO? And if you do, if you feel like you do, you shouldn't even doubt yourself, because the answer to that question is yes, you do deserve it. And why do you deserve it? Because of all the women that came before you and laid the foundation, created the path for you. And I'd like you to take a few minutes right now just to look at this film, and you'll be able to understand what I'm saying when I talk about all the women that came before us and laid the foundation for us.